Welcome to Nightmares on Film's review of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. In this second part of a series of 4, we'll examine the making of the film, the cast, special effects, and music. We'll drop some timestamps in the description so you can jump straight to the part you're interested in. At Nightmares on Film, we explore the history of scary cinema, looking at classic films to see how they were made, why they're interesting or important, and most of all, how scary they are. If you haven't seen the film before, don't worry, we'll try not to mention any big spoilers. Check out our website at www.nightmaresonfilm.com for lots more reviews and other surprises too. Rumor holds that legendary director Fritz Lang, Metropolis, 1927, was the original choice to direct, but was busy with another project, so the job instead went to Robert Veen. Veen was a former actor who had directed over a dozen films prior to The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. His own father struggled with mental health when his successful theater acting career began to dry up. Watching his father endure this must have made Veen unusually sympathetic to some of the themes in this project. Once Dracula bought the script, the film spent another 5 months or so in the planning phase. Once the plan was in place, the film's design took only about 2 weeks to prepare. Modern film designers wish they could do it all in 2 weeks. Herman Worm was the set designer, with Walter Rohrig painting and Walter Reimann designing costumes. In the script, modern technologies like telephones, telegrams, and electric light appear, but the filmmakers decided to drop these elements, making the film's setting feel slightly antiquated. Electric light, in particular, was expensive in Germany after the war due to rationing. Costumes also contribute to the time displacement, with outfits from the early 1800s appearing alongside modern ones from a century later and purely imaginative ones as well. The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari was shot over about a month from December 1919 to January 1920. Unlike most pictures of the time, it was filmed entirely on set at the Lixi Atelier Film Studio in Weissensee, near Berlin. It was a small studio, and this meant the sets themselves had to be small. Several scenes from the script could not be shot due to this limitation. Even in the scenes that remain, the designers had to think outside the box in order to make the space look bigger than it actually was. The biggest thing that helped with this was the decision to paint the backgrounds on canvas. As with a modern matte painting, the environment extends beyond the actual space due to visual trickery. Cinematographer Willy Hameister coordinated the photography. He had collaborated with Veen several times previously. For the most part, the small sets restrained the camera. Many angles and perspectives were simply necessitated by the physical space they worked in. Effective use of close-ups highlight characters' reactions at critical points. Clever use of iris effects allow the viewer's gaze to linger on an important part of the screen just a moment longer at the beginning or end of a scene. Aside from that, the editing is crisp and efficient, moving from scene to scene with little fanfare. It often feels more like a recording of a theater play rather than a motion picture. As this is a silent film, intertitles appear, screens of text describing dialogue or important information. Even these are expressionistic in design. We'll more fully explore the expressionist design aspects in a little while. Prior to The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, theater performances of an expressionist nature were an established part of German cultural life. The actors would exaggerate movements and gestures in a pantomime style. This would also be the case for the film. Actors Werner Krauss and Konrad Veidt were veterans of expressionist theater, and brought many of these techniques with them to the screen. As a result, they were able to adapt their appearance to suit the distinctive visual style of the film's design aesthetic. This included changes to their makeup, wardrobe, and especially their movements and facial expressions. Director Robert Veen also encouraged the actors to move more deliberately, almost dance-like, to enhance the surreal qualities of their characters. Krauss plays the part of the sinister Dr. Caligari. The top hat and cape he wears, as well as his cane, were embellishments suggested by the actor himself. The character's appearance was in part based on that of German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer. Krauss's expressive facial features are especially evocative and memorable. Echoes of his urbane yet crazed appearance are apparent in the character Knock in the later German horror masterpiece Nosferatu. Krauss towered over early German cinema, but his collaboration with the Nazis damaged his career following the Second World War. The other standout performance is Conrad Veidt as Cesare. As a somnambulist who falls under the mind control of the evil Dr. Caligari, Cesare must carry out the doctor's wicked deeds. Veidt is unforgettable as the gaunt and somewhat robotic Cesare. This prolific actor's legendary career lasted 3 decades, only cut short by his untimely death in 1943 at the age of 50. His best-known roles are in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, as well as The Man Who Laughs, 1928, in which his character's rictus grin later provided the inspiration for comic book villain the Joker. After fleeing Germany when the Nazis took power, Veidt went first to Britain, where he starred in The Thief of Baghdad, 1940, then to America, where he played in the critically acclaimed Casablanca, 1942, ironically as a Nazi officer. The character Jane in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is played by Lil Dagover. She had recently found breakout success in Fritz Lang's Harakiri and Die Spinnen, both 1919. After Cabinet, she became one of the most prominent actresses in Germany. She avoided too much political entanglement during the Second World War and continued a productive career in German-language films into her 90s. Other credited roles in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari went to Friedrich Fehr as Francis, Hans Heinrich von Twardowski as Alan, and Rudolf Lettinger as Dr. Olsen. We need to begin with a certain understanding. Special effects meant something very different in 1920 than it does now over a century later. Nevertheless, the visuals in The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari were way ahead of their time. Besides the overall style, there are a few other tricks on display as well. The expressionist set designs are the most memorable design element. These often feature a small foreground area with a painting extending into the background. The environments curve, twist, and pile atop one another in intentionally unrealistic ways. Props such as chairs are intentionally out of scale. Structures lean askew as though about to collapse and lean menacingly over walkways below. In one scene, we find ourselves in the bedroom of a murder victim. The broken window is in the shape of a knife stabbing straight towards the bed where the murder victim lays. Beams of light and patches of shadow are often painted right onto the backgrounds rather than being more conventionally lit. The film is mostly dark, but strong lighting occasionally highlights something the filmmakers want us to see, like Cesare's face when he first awakens. In a scene featuring a prisoner in a cell, the shadows resemble sharp knives closing in on the man from all sides. Watch for a pioneering and influential effect when the second murder occurs. Rather than showing the character directly, we instead see his shadow against a wall as he raises the knife and prepares to plunge it into his victim. This innovative shadow effect also appears to great effect in Nosferatu a couple years later. The use of suggestive shadows and strong contrast between light and dark provided inspiration for the film noir style that would later come to prominence with films like Val Lewton's Cat People, 1942. This scene also features a strong suggestion of violence, which was extremely risque for 1920, predating Hitchcock's Psycho, usually acknowledged as the first slasher film, by 40 years. The expressionist look also influenced the character designs of the Doctor and Cesare, who feature exaggerated makeup, hair, and costume. Other characters in the film are actually pretty normal looking by comparison, making the two leads stand out even more alongside the rest of the cast. The title cards also get the expressionist treatment, featuring stylized text and blocky shapes. Also late in the film, floating text appears superimposed into a live-action scene. This was highly innovative and way ahead of its time. As with many silent films of the period, the black and white film was tinted with color. This varies throughout the film, with warm colors representing daytime, safety, or comfort, and cooler colors representing nighttime or danger. The whole effect is like the dream of a madman, and that's just the effect they were going for. Ultimately, the crazed visuals are a device to enhance the story, and in this regard they are highly effective. Music is another aspect of filmmaking that has changed drastically since 1920. Back then, since the films were silent, in other words, no sound, the music was crucial to the movie-going experience. Live musicians would perform during the screening of the film. Paradoxically, films of the time rarely had official scores in the way more modern pictures do. In the case of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, original music was written and performed by Italian composer Giuseppe Becci at the film's premiere in Berlin. When the film spread more widely, a cue sheet went with it, offering suggestions about the music to local performers. However, this left a large degree of improvisation up to the musicians present at each show. This tradition has continued ever since. Modern screenings are often accompanied by a musician playing somewhat improvisational music along with the film. Many musicians have recorded their own compositions that can be played concurrently with a home video version of the film. The various home video versions often contain one or more of these audio scores that a viewer can listen to while the film plays. Some of these are more traditional, while others use exotic styles and instrumentation. Because of this, if you see the film from two different sources, it may sound very different. But wait, there's more. Click the link on your screen to be taken to the third part of this 4-part series, where we'll continue our discussion of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari with a look at the film's theatrical release and critical reception, as well as its legacy through time. Thanks for watching. You can help us celebrate scary cinema by liking and commenting on the video. If you like what you see so far, why not subscribe to the channel and tap the bell icon so you'll get notified whenever we release a new video. On our website, www.nightmaresonfilm.com, you'll find written versions of all our film reviews, including many not yet available on our YouTube channel. If you poke around in there, you may discover some other surprises too.